I never expected a tree to ruin my life or to bring down an entire HOA. One afternoon, I pulled into my driveway to find my beloved maple tree being hacked apart by men in orange vests. My neighbor, Karen Peterson, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, stood nearby, arms crossed in satisfaction. "Finally, someone's taking care of this mess," she said smugly. "Your leaves clog my gutters every fall, and the roots are cracking my driveway." I demanded answers from the crew chief. He handed me an official-looking paper signed by Richard Thornton, HOA president. I had received no notice. When I pulled out my phone to call Richard, a sickening crack filled the air. A massive branch crashed down, right onto Karen's pristine white gazebo, shattering it. Karen screamed, "Your tree destroyed my property. You'll pay for this." Richard arrived minutes later, clipboard in hand. "The HOA approved this removal. Your tree was a hazard. Now, you'll need to cover the damages." I knew something was wrong, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. The next morning, I received an official HOA letter. I was being sued for $28,000 for damages to Karen's gazebo. The attached report, dated 3 weeks before the incident, claimed my tree was diseased and dangerous. Karen called, voice dripping with fake sympathy. "I just wanted to check if you received the notice." Such a shame. My daughter was going to have her wedding reception in that gazebo. I clenched my jaw. "Your people cut down my tree without permission. How is this my fault? Maybe if you maintained your yard properly, we wouldn't have had to step in." The board acted in the community's best interest. That evening, my elderly neighbor, Tom, knocked on my door. "I saw Richard sneaking around your yard last night," he said. "You need to check your property line." We pulled out my property survey. My heart pounded as I traced the lines. The tree was fully on my property. The HOA had no right to touch it. Tom exhaled. They knew, and they did it anyway. I started digging. What I found made my stomach turn. The HOA had been funneling every maintenance contract to Thornton Construction, Richard's own company. No competitive bids, just inflated costs and hush money. Karen's husband? He sat on the city zoning board, the same one that had approved Richard's shady new development project downtown. And my tree? It was standing on land that would be critical for a new storm drainage system Richard needed to complete his project. They weren't just after my tree. They wanted my land. I took my findings to Detective Rodriguez, a local investigator. She scanned the documents, nodding. "We've had eyes on Thornton Construction for months. But this..." She tapped the lawsuit papers. "This is new. If they're falsifying reports and forcing homeowners out, that's criminal fraud." Days later, my security camera caught Richard and 2 HOA board members sneaking into my backyard at night, digging soil samples. They were trying to manufacture evidence of contamination, justification to force me out. Rodriguez called the FBI. "This is bigger than we thought. HOA corruption, money laundering, kickbacks. We're looking at millions in fraud." That night, a rock shattered my living room window. A note attached read, "Leave now or worse will come." But I wasn't backing down. The HOA called an emergency meeting to vote on forcing me out. Karen, smug as ever, whispered to neighbors, poisoning them against me. Richard clicked through a slideshow, painting me as a community menace. "Our tests show concerning levels of contaminants under his property. The HOA must act." Tom stood. "Who conducted these tests? And where's the proof?" Richard waved him off. "My company has specialists. The technical details aren't important." Just then, the community center doors slammed open. FBI agents flooded the room. Agent Patel held up a warrant. "Richard Thornton, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement." Gasps filled the room. Karen's face drained of color. "This is outrageous. Richard is a respected businessman." Patel ignored her. "We also have warrants for Margaret Peterson, James Jenkins, and Sarah Williams." Karen stammered. "I barely look at the financial reports." "Then maybe you should have," Patel replied, snapping cuffs onto Richard's wrists. With Richard in jail and the HOA under investigation, the truth came out. They had embezzled over $1 million through fraudulent HOA fees. Karen had personally approved bogus charges, including a special assessment to build her own gazebo. At an emergency vote, the HOA was disbanded. Karen put her house on the market within a week. No one would buy it. Her once perfect lawn withered, her influence gone. As for me, I kept my home. My tree was gone, But the land it stood on was mine, and no corrupt HOA could take it from me. The war was over, and I had won.